The Venus flytrap has long been the subject of science fiction. It's green, toothy, and carnivorous. But there's no way a Venus flytrap can capture this swift little wasp, or is there? Oh no, wait, don't touch the boy. Yup. Fortunately for you, the Venus flytrap doesn't eat people who aren't on Broadway. Its palate is sophisticated for a carnivorous plant. So what kind of animals does it consume? Well, Venus flytraps are perennial, carnivorous plants that can live up to 20 years in the wild. While most of their energy is obtained through photosynthesis, insects provide nutrients that aren't readily available in the soil. Plants that eat other creatures? But there's actually nothing unnatural about it. Carnivorous plants have existed on this planet for millions of years. Charles Darwin had something special for this species. He said Venus flytrap is one of the most wonderful plants in the world. And of course, there's no doubt that he made that up after watching the jaws of this plant snap around an insect, capturing it for a meal. It's clear why he believed this was no ordinary plant. Its internal leaves are a rich blood red like a tongue, and its outside is a brilliant parakeet green. But what truly amazes me about these plants is how they eat. Two hinged leaves that create delicious nectar to draw insects make up each trap. Probably not very unusual for a plant, but around each leaf are a cluster of tiny, tooth-like bristles that lock together when the hinge slams shut. The trap also has 3 short, stiff, very sensitive trichomes or hairs. A Venus flytrap will undoubtedly notice if anything touches its trichomes, but this cunning plant won't close its trap immediately. This prevents wasting energy on a meager meal like dirt leaves or tiny insects. But when something juicier is on the menu, like a slug, the hairs will bend multiple times, causing the mouth-like jaws to snap shut in less than a second. This keeps dangerous germs outside and digestive juices inside. A quick background. Although the Venus flytrap has captivated people across the world, wild populations of Venus flytrap plants actually grow in an incredibly small geographic area. In the wild, they're found in a 75 square mile region along the coast of North and South Carolina. Within this area, the plants are further limited to living in humid, wet, and sunny bogs and wetland areas. Because Venus flytraps are so scarce, some early botanists doubted their existence, despite all the stories spread about a flesh-eating plant. The most interesting thing about this plant is how it eats. Flytraps lure insects by the reddish lining in the leaves and by secreting a fragrant nectar. When bugs land in the jaws of the flytrap, it doesn't clamp down right away. Sensory hairs called trichomes on the inside of the petals essentially count the movements from the insect. There must be at least 2 movements in 20 seconds, or the petals won't close. This prevents it from trapping debris or other items that wouldn't make a good meal. On the second movement, the plant closes its jaws in under a second by snapping from a convex shape to a concave shape. The bristles on the edge of the leaves work like jail bars to prevent the insect from making an escape. On the third movement, it starts to digest the insect. Digestive juices are introduced to the mouth area and they break down the insect. After 5 to 12 days, the plant will reopen and the parts of the bug that couldn't be digested fall out. The Venus flytrap's primary prey is ants, but it will also eat flies, beetles, slugs, spiders, and even tiny frogs. Flytraps don't just eat bugs for nutrition though. Like other plants, they also need water, gases, and sunlight. Insects simply supplement their diet, according to the Botanical Society of America. And obviously, there are more than 500 different of its kinds, with appetites ranging from insects and spiders to small 1 or 2 cell aquatic organisms. Venus flytraps evolved from simpler carnivorous plants around 65 million years ago, and the fossil record suggests their ancestors were much more widespread, especially in Europe. So how did the plant end up with the intriguing name of Venus flytrap? If you've seen the musical Little Shop of Horrors, you might have been left with a bad impression of what really is a neat plant. While Audrey 2, the mutant flytrap in the movie, developed a taste for humans, most carnivorous plants selectively feed on insects and arachnids like spiders, flies, caterpillars, crickets, and slugs. If other plants can thrive on gases in the air plus water from the soil, why do Venus flytraps eat insects? Flytraps actually get a good deal of their sustenance like other plants do through the process of photosynthesis. Human versus flytrap. While our imaginations dream of huge, people-eating killer plants, we are the real threat to the continued existence of flytrap and other carnivorous plants. It has been endangered in the wild due to overcollection by flytrap enthusiasts, draining and destruction of the natural wetlands where they grow, and pollution. In the wild, the plant can only be found in a 75 square mile area of the above-mentioned states of North and South Carolina. This represents less than a third of this species' historic range. As of 2024, only around 300,000 Venus flytraps remain from a wild population of 4 million in the 1970s. Inside the Venus flytrap, carnivorous plants have been able to attract insects, capture bugs, discriminate between food and non-food, and digest their prey. All of these steps are accomplished through simple mechanical and chemical processes. Unlike us, plants don't have a brain or nervous system to coordinate their physiological functions and tell them that they are hungry, so they should go buy a burger from the nearest fast food place. Plants also lack complex muscles and tendons to grab food, chew it, swallow it, and process it. The Venus flytrap completes the entire process by way of a specialized set of leaves that is both mouth and stomach in one. What about its eating process? When an insect lands or crawls on the trap, it is likely to run into one of 6 short, stiff hairs on the trap's inner surfaces. These are called trigger hairs, and they serve as a primitive motion detector for the plant. If 2 of these tiny hairs are brushed in close succession, or one hair is touched twice, the leaves close down upon the offending insect within half a second. Edible? Even without a brain to analyze what it's eating, the Venus flytrap still manages to differentiate between insects and non-edible debris that might fall into the trap. The Venus flytrap still manages to differentiate between insects and non-edible debris that might fall into its trap. This step is also mediated by the 6 sensitive trigger hairs. An insect caught inside the partially closed trap will continue to thrash about in an attempt to escape. It's guaranteed that at least one of the trigger hairs will be tweaked by the insect's movement. Sorry to say you're wasting energy, little insect buddy. This serves as the signal to close the trap entirely. Inanimate objects like stones, twigs, and leaves that fall into the trap, or objects that are placed there, will not move around and fire the trigger hairs. If there is no further stimulation of the hair, the trap stays in its partially shut state until tension can be reestablished in the leaves of the trap. This process takes about 12 hours, at which point the leaves spread apart again. The unwanted object either falls out as the leaves reopen or is blown out by the wind. The selection process obviously isn't perfect. While the trap is out of commission, real food in the form of flies and spiders may be crawling all around the plant. Imagine if you had to sit with a chicken bone or peach pit in your mouth for 12 hours while the rest of your dinner sat on the table in front of you. The difference is that you are conscious of what you're eating, while the Venus flytrap is a passive participant in choosing what it's going to eat for dinner. The process is actually a nifty way for the Venus flytrap to get around 2 problems. It lacks a brain to tell it that it's biting down on something inedible, and it lacks the musculature to spit it out. You gotta be careful with flytrap. Alright, so Venus flytraps are essentially in wide, moist, longleaf pine savannas. When there isn't much fire, trees and shrubs take over these areas and obscure the sun that tiny plants like the Venus flytrap need. By the way, only just 3% of the once vast coastal plain is now home to longleaf pine forests. Another big problem has been poaching. In North Carolina, Venus flytraps are regarded as a species of special concern. Poaching them has been long against the law, but in 2014, state legislation changed it to make it criminal. Still, Venus flytraps are unable to safeguard endangered and threatened species.